It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Welcome into another edition of the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. We'll be talking with Blake coming up in just a second. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be hearing a ton of information. Some of it you might want to get repeated. Some of it you might want to get explained. But the thing is, you can do all that by just calling Blake and talking to him live. Call him at Sloan Realty Group. The phone number there is 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. Or you can go online and just read it for yourself at the website blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com. We'll repeat that information lots of times between now and the next 30 minutes. In the meantime, let's go ahead and bring it in for another show. Here's Blake Sloan.
Good morning, everyone. Got awesome brand new show. Obviously, we had a wild week this past week with the election and everything. So obviously carry that on, we're going to talk about the election, right? How it's going to affect the real estate market. That's what everyone's been talking about, what everyone's been asking me about as well. So we'll talk about what the Donald effect is going to have on the real estate market. So, right, what's the Trump effect going to happen? What's going to, how does it affect you guys locally? What's everyone predicting? And so I've dug into all kind of research from a bunch of economists across the country, well-respected ones, also obviously my knowledge in there as well. So we'll talk about that as well. We're going to touch on the newest market numbers from last month if we have time there, which we will. We'll dig into those much deeper next week, but we got some interesting numbers, some very kind of crazy numbers from last month's market overall breakdown. And also, hopefully, if we have time too, we're going to finally get into how home buying right now is 37.7% cheaper than renting nationwide. We had it on the agenda the past 2 weeks, but obviously we didn't have time to get to that with our special guest last week and the stuff we really covered. We had a lot of great feedback from last week's show, which was awesome. And also, if you have time, we'll get to how home ownership is back up from a 50-year low, and some of the facts from one of the largest home ownership surveys ever done. And of course, we'll get into some very detailed, awesome success stories and another crazy horror story from someone else. I want to share with you guys the stuff we see every single day.
All right, sounds good. Jam-packed show as always. That's what's coming your way. Now, if you're just tuning in for the very first time and don't know much about Blake, he's been called the real estate whiz kid, been featured in Forbes magazine and Wall Street Journal, on NBC. You've seen him on Fox and Friends, The Morning Show, Realtor magazine, a lot of other national publications too. You've heard the personal endorsements on this very radio station from Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Barbara Corcoran, and others. All of those put together just unprecedented. So that's what Blake is all about. Now, he also is all about his trademark systems to help both buyers and sellers. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, he's got a way for you to do it and do it right. And I know that you like to kind of tell a little bit about that trademark system every show. So, spill the beans.
Yeah, like I said, I made a promise to talk about it. And I mean, once I get into some of these like horror stories in a minute, you see why and understand why, because it's so important. And guess what? Both of these horror stories here were people who also listened to the show previously and did not reach out earlier, right? So here's the fact. The single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller, right, or a home buyer comes down to one thing only, right? The agent that you choose, period. How they operate, how they execute, and how they handle the process from A to Z, right? So what that means is, for example, when you sell a house, there's 118 different variables. We know that because we identified those, obviously, which most people don't even do, right? So we identified those. If those are handled correctly, it puts money in your pocket, okay? Or it sells faster at the same time. Now, if they're handled incorrectly, guess what? That costs you money, part of your hard-earned equity, or the property does not sell, which happens almost the majority of the time that someone does list a house in our MLS, which is crazy, right? So what we did, we identified those, right, for all the home selling process, all the 118 variables, and reverse engineered every single point to create maximum leverage for our client to give them the ultimate competitive advantage when they're selling a property, okay? It's called the Guaranteed Sold System. It's the only proven system to sell homes twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. So it gives you a huge advantage from that process. Designed it, trademarked it, licensed to other agents, other parts of the country. It's obviously exclusive to us. Also for home buyers out there, there's over 100 different variables as well. And so we identified those, reverse engineered to give maximum leverage to our client every single point. It's called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Gets you priority access to all the best deals, foreclosure, distress sales, desperate sellers. Also gets you access to absolute best financing and negotiation process from A to Z. So the fact is, right, all agents are not the same. It could not be further from the truth. There's a massive difference in how they operate, how most of them operate pretty much the same way, right, which is a huge failure rate. So it does matter who you use in the process that they have.
All right. Well, a lot lot of stuff we got to get to here, so let's go ahead and get started here in just a second with the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show. Coming up, going to be looking at some of the interest rates and things like that, but real estate update. Also, we want to see what the new president means to the real estate market. That's why you're listening to the show, right? I'll find out all about real estate. That's the most, the biggest news that's out there. How does that affect you? We'll find out in just a second. That and more coming your way. If you'd like to get in touch with Blake, 808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. You're listening to the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Hey, it's your friend Sean Hannity. Now, if you own property in Myrtle Beach, the national marketing plan of the realtor that you choose is absolutely critical. Now, that's exactly why you need to talk to Blake Sloan at Sloan Realty Group. Now, Blake has a marketing system on a whole different level than anyone else in Myrtle Beach. That's so effective at capturing local buyers from around the world that he can guarantee to sell your home at a price and a deadline that you agree to, or Blake's going to buy it. While most agents rely on yard signs and open houses that attract the occasional buyer, Blake attracts hundreds of buyers each month, which creates demand and helps your property sell fast and for top dollar. Now, that's why on average, Blake sells a property every single day of the year and is ranked among the top 100 agents in the entire U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Now, working with Blake is risk-free. Now, if you're not happy, Blake gives you the freedom to cancel your contract and pay nothing. So give Blake a call today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or just go online and see Blake's interview on NBC at blakesguarantee.com.
For free. To sell your home on time for the most money, you need a sharp agent with a marketing strategy that creates the most demand. Bottom line, you need a partner willing to put their own money on the line for you. In Myrtle Beach, I would hire Blake Sloan. His international marketing creates so much demand that if your home doesn't sell at a price and deadline you agree to, Blake will buy it. Partner with the agent I trust. Go online or call and get your home sold.
It is the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show, along with Blake Sloan. Coming up in just a minute, we'll have the real estate update. Also, we'll see what the mortgage rates are looking like this week. And also coming up in just a minute, what the Trump effect is going to be on the real estate market. If you do want to get in touch with Blake, remember you can call 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD to his office at Sloan Realty Group, or you can go online to blakesloan.com. blakesloan.com. So, Blake, what does the Trump effect mean for the real estate market?
This is the number one question I'm getting right now from every client, every friend, relative, whatever. The question, hey, is, can Trump make the housing market great again? And kind of what's everybody feeling? And so, obviously, a lot of excitement. Obviously, there's a lot of different feelings on both sides. And so, it's something that I'm very bullish about it. All the clients I've talked to are very bullish about what's going to happen. Obviously, disclose that, obviously, Eric Trump is actually a pretty good friend of mine. I know him very, very well. We were both in Forbes 30 and 30 together, and so developed a pretty good relationship from that. Obviously met Donald before too. So I think very, very highly of that family, just based on Eric's probably one of the sharpest dudes I've ever met in my entire life, and met a lot of people, and so had a lot of faith in there from that standpoint. But so here's kind of what everybody's thinking. Obviously, this came from a lot of different. One of these, some of this breakdowns from the chief economist for National Association of Realtors. Obviously, some other people I'm in different masterminds and group with and stuff. So. And what a lot of people are saying right now is that the Trump presidency could, be a boon for home buyers struggling to save up for a hefty down payment. And that's partly because, a lot of promised tax cuts to kind of shrink the number of tax brackets from 7 down to 3, and could in theory leave buyers with more money to spend on the home of their dreams, right? It's kind of one of the things. Also, a lot of people talking right now, it could also give luxury market, which has been slowing down nationally as of late, a boost. And that's something myself and a lot of the top agents kind of agree on, because for the high-end market, especially the high-end, in other areas like, let's say, Miami, Vegas, obviously high-end stuff we have here, it can be very, very positive. Okay, and obviously there's a lot of people on the other side of that pointing out the other things, that could be some of the reforms laid out. Republican Party could obviously, force buyers a little bit larger down payments, higher interest rates, and we'll kind of talk about what that is from that standpoint. And so one of the big concerns that everyone kind of has is the Fannie and Freddie thing, right? So obviously everybody talks about, Republicans before talked about doing away with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And that's kind of what would obviously, or at least worst case or best case or whatever, that shrink both those substantially is kind of what they're wanting to do. And that's something that kind of it would be a challenge for all. And we'll kind of talk about that as well in a second. But, so kind of what a lot of the big economists are saying right now, basically said, hey, there probably no doubt be a short-term, stimulus to the economy, right, from that combination of tax cuts, government spending in the form of obviously nation's infrastructure. I've had 3 different clients talk about that with me as well, and also for national defense, which obviously will boost the short-term economy in first half of 2017. So we all know that everybody's predicting maybe inflation go up a little bit, a bit higher from a faster GDP growth that obviously lead to a little bit higher interest rates overall, and we'll kind of dig into those in a second. But the other thing too, I'll talk about is some of that happening will obviously give a little more consumer confidence and obviously move that economy a little bit higher. Okay, so that's kind of one of the things is, hey, maybe a little bit small inflation, obviously because faster GDP growth obviously will arise out of that. But they're saying automatically obviously mean more tax revenue as well. So that's getting deep stuff, but obviously that's very, very bullish. Everybody I'm kind of seeing here from that standpoint. They're saying, hey, look, the trade deficit will probably rise in 2017 because a growing economy will allow Americans to basically drink more Italian wine, have more German sports cars, things like that they'll bring in now. There's also been a lot of talk about adding tariffs and things like that if a lot of that stuff to happen, so obviously lessen that trade deficit, which would mean a lot more higher prices for consumers in that aspect, right? So that's kind of what everybody's kind of talking about. Other thing everybody's talking about is obviously there's definitely going to be some more gyrations in the stock market, and here's the two parts why, right? Wall Street obviously cheer less government regulation, but will also frown restrictive international trade policies. So we're going to see both those kind of affect that overall thing. Obviously, these things aren't directly tied to each other from all the different in regards to the real estate market, but it all does come together. Consumer confidence, it also comes together and where people put money in, right? So that's kind of we're looking at the overall picture and kind of reverse engineer, from there. So that's kind of one of the things. Obviously, also everybody's talking about the current leader of the Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, obviously probably going to be asked to step down. Basically by the market as it unsettles kind of as well. So that's kind of what everybody's talking about. Here's the big thing that everybody kind of in the business right now is cheering and wants, right? There's definitely, hopefully, going to be some changes to the DoddFrank Act. And if you guys know what that is out there, it's been kind of a disaster for the real estate industry world, mortgage world, and I know it probably had good intentions, but a lot of times it's written by people who had no clue what the hell goes on in that process. And it said so much red tape, so much regulations, make things so ridiculous in regards to how the processes work and kind of how it goes through from that standpoint. So that's one of the things that they're hoping does that. With that, also Trump, the Republican Party obviously wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which everyone in the industry is also talking about. They basically have no real regulations. No one really holds them accountable, and no one even knows exactly what the rules are. There's so many different things that they will not give information on, but all of a sudden they'll come in and rule on certain things as well. And one of the things that Republicans viewed it as, the whole Dodd-Frank, is that it's regulatory harassment of local regional banks, and which is obviously the source of most home mortgages, small business loans. And obviously it gives advantage to big banks because they have a little more system and stuff in place. But ultimately makes it harder for Americans to buy a home, right, in that platform. And that's 100% true. I see it every single day. There's so many ridiculous rules and regulations that we have to deal with that are totally useless. I guess there's some parts of it that are good. Obviously, no one has a crystal ball to kind of determine exactly what will happen with that in that aspect. But that's kind of one of the things that obviously it should help loosen up that a little bit if that's the case. At least what everybody's kind of leaning towards. The other one, too, is obviously people are kind of speculating a little bit that there could be kind of a move away from some of the stringent mortgage underwriting, to get to more, I guess, normal lending, right? Credit's still very, very tight, which is evidenced by very, very high credit scores kind of being referenced here as what most loans are getting approved by. So with that saying, the trend is obviously very high in what the average credit score is for people that get approval. And here's why. It's something I haven't really talked about it much and actually dug into a little bit more last night. But here's kind of why. A lot of the lending institutions have been overly conservative because of exposure to random lawsuits. And so what's happened is the federal government's basically been coming in and basically suing a lot of these lending institutions based on how they've done lending the previous years, what's been going on. So that's allowed them to kind of back up. And so what we want here, what everybody's kind of talking about in the industry, right, is to the degree that actually the Trump administration comes in and makes it, if they do, make it very clear on what's an infraction and what's not an infraction, right, in regards to how mortgages are provided to consumers. And so that's kind of one of the key things they're talking about. There's two options they can go. They can go the same route that's been going on, right? Hey, that will sue you. And obviously if the Trump administration does that, they create that environment of we will sue you, then guess what? You're going to see some of those lending institutions retrench and kind of shut off that mortgage access to a lot of consumers because they don't want to expose themselves back out to those huge lawsuits. So that's something everybody's kind of talking about right now. And here's my perspective on this overall. And so what does that mean to real estate market, the economy? And here's the deal. It doesn't get much better than having a real estate developer, be president in regards to the actual, real estate world, right? So that's kind of a big thing there. Obviously, there's a whole different ways you can go with that. But like I said, that's one thing that you'll see. At least they understand a lot of this, how it goes. We talked about the other part here. Fannie and Freddie may not survive that, right? So that's kind of one of the things where, and a lot of this has to do with what happened, obviously, in the bailouts before. hundreds of billions of taxpayers' dollars. And that's one thing that here's what a lot of people are talking about though too is that the one thing we need here that I think helps, and this is my opinion too, we definitely need them, right? Because we need somebody who can help guarantee those mortgage-backed securities there. And everybody remembers back in the whole crash. One thing that happened, if everybody probably doesn't realize or remember that, I'm sure some do tremendously, but mortgage lending on commercial real estate collapsed over 90% at the time the crash happened. So basically, that's why you saw so much carnage, right? And the reason they collapsed 90%, guess what? There's no government backing of that. So that's why you saw such a massive difference here. And so ultimately, right, we definitely want to have some way to be able to have that, some product there that can at least help keep that stabilized. And the one way to kind of look at it is looking at almost like an FDIC kind of thing where it kind of helps smooth the financial market, especially into that mortgage world. Same thing a lot of these economists are saying, same thing that we feel as well, because we want that, I guess, stability there, from that standpoint. So that's kind of what's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, hopefully that there's enough knowledge there from that they don't do anything too drastic that could hurt it too bad. The other thing too, that'll help tremendously. Hopefully, there could be less regulatory land use and zoning burden for a lot of the home construction, and obviously lower the cost of building. And that's what people are talking about because recent years, obviously, new constructed homes prices have been much higher than existing home prices, pretty much across the country. And home builders are pretty much saying that that's due from all the extra cost of regulation, not necessarily from the higher cost of lumber, cement, worker wages. And that's kind of one of the things that hopefully happen. Actually, they're talking about here too. That President Obama's economist, in fact, actually wrote a white paper on the topic of actually trying to lift this burden on people, aka the builders, developers. So that's something we hope. We probably think that Trump will probably move that issue and try to move that same way. Hopefully, definitely we'll do that from that standpoint. One thing too, people are concerned about a little bit is that homeowners in flood zones and also who suffer like natural disasters like fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, may get a little less help or assistance from the government going in the future because they're basically $24 billion in the hole right now. Is kind of what they're talking about. And then obviously the other thing they're talking about, which everybody's heard this a million times, there'll probably be some active discussions about tax reform, right? Obviously, specifically how commercial properties depreciated, things like that. Obviously, how Trump used his that to help reduce his personal liability for taxes. So that's kind of what everybody's talking about too. But the good thing, hopefully, everyone I talked to has been extremely bullish about it. All our clients are extremely bullish about it. Obviously, we're a red state, so that kind of and obviously a lot of our listeners and favorite clients are obviously from the Conservative Talk radio station, which is awesome. I'm obviously a big fan of them. Like I said, I know the family very, very well. Eric's a good friend of mine. And so that's one of the things that I'm very excited about excited about having that in there, at least someone who runs like a true business there and hopefully remembers that background in real estate and brings us a lot more, growth as well. What are your thoughts on anything?
I've been talking so much about it throughout the course of the week as far as stuff is concerned, but as far as how it might affect real estate and everything else, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, I'm bullish about it. Like I said, the one thing that, at least having somebody who kind of grew up, and that comes from having some pretty serious, deep conversations with Eric about stuff and how they do stuff and how they develop. And it was awesome just to understand how they do stuff, the mindset of their company. And obviously, the reason I talk about that because it's the same thing that I almost use in my company. It's very similar to the mindset, the part of understanding economics, understanding how the real estate world works. And him and I both had deep level conversations about basically development here in the United States, development in South America, the challenges everybody has with corruption down there, how they were able to, battle that. So there's a lot of cool things that, I hopefully see that they have great perspective on. And to only know this from going in deep conversations about challenges they had, ways that you lose tremendous amount of money, ways you don't lose tremendous amount of money. We dug in deep how, they would build buildings side by side. Other people, how theirs came in much faster, under budget, and on time when the ones that were competitors right next to them did not. And it was amazing to hear that and understand the mindset and the thought process behind that. And so that's something I'm definitely very excited about, to be at least have something about that in there. And like I said, we talked for hours about it. Small.
Alright, you want to run to a break here real quick? Yeah, we can go break real quick, and then we can jump into the numbers real quick, and see how much time we got for that. Alright, sounds some of the other numbers that you need to know about. This is the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. If you'd like to get in touch with Blake, you can. 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. You can also go online to the website, blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com.
Do you want your home sold on time and for the most money without all sorts of excuses? Hi, it's Glenn Beck, and when I had to sell my home, I went through several agents who all had good ideas, but the bottom line is they couldn't get the job done. Well, you have a celebrity in your own town. If I lived in Myrtle Beach, no question, I would call Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Blake has a marketing system that reaches buyers from around the U.S. and around the world, and week after week, he attracts hundreds of buyers, and that creates incredible demand. And that's why he can guarantee to sell your home at a price and a deadline that you'll agree to, or he's going to buy it. Plus, you don't really risk anything when you list with Blake, since if he doesn't live up to the contract, you walk away free and clear. It's really no wonder why Sean Hannity and I, along with real estate tycoon and Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran, endorse Blake. Call Blake Sloan right now, 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or visit Blake's website, that's blakesguarantee.com. blakesguarantee.com. Or listen to Blake's Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 or Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WRNN.
9 minutes.
Okay.
It is the Ashford Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. If you'd like to get in touch with Blake, you can by calling him at 808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD, or go online to blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. Got some of the numbers coming your way right now, including a real estate update. What's the latest on the market?
Okay, so this is something I'm gonna need a full beginning of the show next week to talk about the whole part issues for the Trump stuff. So I'm gonna touch it for you guys right now, and then we're gonna dig into the why because it's gonna be a little alarming, right? So check this out. And it just came out today, so we just got the numbers today. Single family sales volume last month, check it out, dropped 25.2% in October. So that's alarming, right? That's crazy numbers. So a quarter, drop in the entire real estate market last month. Now, why that happened, here's the deal, hurricane. Okay, so we'll dig into why that is. So there's a ton of closings that were supposed to happen, and when that natural disaster came in, guess what? The banks for the financing deals made them go back and get a second appraisal. How did I know that? We had tons and tons and tons of deals that we had to have that second appraisal done, and guess what? Push it back a few weeks later. So we're going to dig into how much that effect was and how much it wasn't as well. Also, median sales price up only 0.3% last month and up 2.0% for the year. So you notice it dropped from 3.3 down to 2, which is something to keep in mind. I call this, and we're going to see this continue to happen a little bit, I believe. We will have a jump, obviously, this month because of all the closings last month got pushed here, right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing, too, prices for new construction up 10%. Resales are down 4.5%. So it's something to watch. We've seen this go back and forth here as well from that standpoint. Condo sales decreased 10% compared to the same month last year. They're up 7.4% year to date. Remember, a couple months ago, we had an 18% increase from that standpoint, which is good. So that's kind of the one thing there. Registered lot sales are down 50.4% last month, right, compared to basically, and are down 11.3% year to date. So crazy numbers, alarming numbers. I'm going to do a whole show on that for you guys.
Okay.
Don't have a heart attack yet. It has to do with kind of what's going on in the other part. Mortgage rates up significantly, 3.85% for a 30-year. Basically, they relentlessly moved higher. A lot had to do with, obviously, the market's going crazy this past week. Remember, the stock market had a huge drop. We had two highest days in the Dow after that when it rallied. So obviously the stock market's up, bond market's usually down. We'll kind of dig into that next week as well. If you want, I'll kind of get to that hot buyer stuff real quick and a couple of these success stories because that's very, very interesting. Do you want to kind of share that with them, Dave, real quick?
Yeah, well, when the hot buyer alert, obviously, as we let you know, he's looking for inventory. Blake is, and he's got so many home buyers who are looking for home sites in the Myrtle Beach area. If you were even thinking about selling, if you have a home anywhere in the range from $150,000 to $3.5 million, please call Blake immediately because, like I said, he needs inventory. Why? Here's the reason why. On his websites, which are specially set up, he's got people who check in. Not on just like a monthly basis, not on a weekly basis, but several times a day because they want to make sure if there's anything new that goes on the market in the Myrtle Beach area, they'll be amongst the first to be able to check it out. Right now, there are a lot of active home buyers. How many? 28,824 according to last count. Blake, that's just an amazing amount of people looking for homes right here in Myrtle Beach.
Massive, right? And these are active. These people have an account with us, username, password. They're logging on continuously from that standpoint. So that's one of the things just to kind of watch out what there. And the bottom line is I can spend more money to acquire buyer clients because of our business model. I outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. So if you're a seller thinking about, what's Blake do differently, here's the deal. I'll spend them 100 to 1 on average to bring in more buyers to your property, which in turn, guess what? Increases demand and sells for more money. So it's pretty simple from a business model standpoint. But that's what's gotten us all the recognition, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, all that because we flipped the traditional old school business model upside down. and I have an unbelievable marketing machine. I'm basically a marketer in the real estate business, and that's what really differentiates me from everybody else to kind of get you in there. But the bottom line is I have way more buyers than there are houses right now. So that's the thing. Even the market being down last month, guess what? We're still crushing. And that's one of the things that everybody that we got this priced right, that's a house there, reach out and call me. And if you want, how much time we got left, Dave?
Kind of problem. We got about 4 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna get into this. This is kind of some success story, aka / horror stories, in a second because it's so important. Really quick success story. Quick thank you. I want to give a shout out to Denise Bartley. She's a longtime listener of us, and actually called us this week. Listed her house with us. Her and Mark, which is great. So really appreciate that. Here's the thing. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, "Man, I wish I called you earlier. Wish I would have called you earlier." So if you've been doing that, or if you had a friend out there that needs help, have them call me today. Right? 843-808-SOLD. Do not wait. They need it, especially right now where the market's so tough to navigate. So check this out. Recent story here. It's our newest horror story. We had awesome clients who were also regular listeners. They called after being listed with 4 other agents, actually. Check this out. The first thing they said when they sat down with me is, "Oh my God, I wish I had called you earlier." We went through the whole process. Okay, and so here's the thing. Here's a massive kicker. It's listed with 3 other agents before the last one, and the last one had 184 days total. Here's the big crazy thing, right? The price is $850,000. Okay, 81 acres, had 5 pictures on the whole property of a farm. Right now, 5 pictures, and check this out. The agent made the owner take the pictures himself and email them to him. Right, so you got $1 million property. They made him take the pictures himself with a point and shoot camera, and then I mark him like, I was floored. You don't realize what the stuff that happens out here, and these people are trusting this person who's supposedly, a professional, and it's not. And so that's a huge thing. The agent you use matters. This goes right back to that same story I was telling you guys before. The stuff we see is unreal. Last week, I think we talked about Steve and Cindy came to us, listened to another agent, 465 days, $500,000 property, had 4 pictures, not 1 picture of the inside. I mean, this is crazy. Your first showing you have happens online. Guess what? They need to invest professional photos, invest in the things that get your house differentiated or your property differentiated, because here's the deal. That stuff matters, okay? It's all successes, all in the details, and how the dominoes are stacked. We're very, very good at stacking those dominoes, which is great. And just this week, Juanita had a house in Myrtle Beach. Listed one other agent before us who failed to get the job done. Guess what? We're able to come in, get it sold fast for top dollar in a couple of weeks. So that's the kind of things that we're doing over and over and over. Steve also had a house. Need some TLC with it, right? This happens all the time. We sell immaculate multi-million-dollar homes. We sell something need a little bit of TLC. I'll sell anything because we're very, very good at what we do with that. But it was listed 2 other agents before that. No action, no offers came in. We're able to come in and implement our international marketing program, get under contract within a few weeks. So this happens over and over and over again. Also talk about Lisa, had a house in Myrtle Beach, listed another agent for 7 months, no offers, no action. We came in, implemented our unmatched marketing system, which is also national, international, and under contract in 3 weeks. So the bottom line, what does that mean to you is that here's the deal. We have much bigger reach. We increase demand for the property because we actually market aggressively. Most agents, they just list your property, put it in MLS, and that's it. So if you've been thinking about calling me, if you know someone who needs some help, have them tackle them. Tell them, look, you got to call Blake right now, okay? 843-808-SOLD. We're finishing this year hot, driving into the end of the year. We're still selling like crazy, and we're going to sell it into that first part of the year. So you want to get that plan in place now. So call me, 843-808-SOLD. A lot of excitement right now with what's going on in the market, kind of what happened in the election. So you guys definitely want to take advantage of that before we see a dip in prices, which may happen in the next first quarter next year.
All right. Well, I've had a jam-packed show here today. Like you said, for the next week's show, you'll get deeper into those numbers because we had a lot of things to talk about as far as the election is concerned.
Absolutely.
A lot of good stuff coming your way, but a lot of good things as always here with the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show. If you want to find out more and maybe get the jump on some of those numbers are, go ahead and call Blake at his office, 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD, or go online to blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. Blake, we'll do it again next week?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll see you then. This has been the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Hey, it's your friend Sean Hannity. Now, if you own property in Myrtle Beach, the national marketing plan of the realtor that you choose is absolutely critical. Now, that's exactly why you need to talk to Blake Sloan at Sloan Realty Group. Now, Blake has a marketing system on a whole different level than anyone else in Myrtle Beach. It's so effective at capturing local buyers from around the world that he can guarantee to sell your home at a price and a deadline that you agree to, or Blake's going to buy it. While most agents rely on yard signs and open houses that attract the occasional buyer, Blake attracts hundreds of buyers each month, which creates demand and helps your property sell fast and for top dollar. Now, that's why, on average, Blake sells a property every single day of the year and is ranked among the top 100 agents in the entire U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Now, working with Blake is risk-free. Now, if you're not happy, Blake gives you the freedom to cancel your contract and pay nothing. So give Blake a call today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or just go online and see Blake's interview on NBC at blakesguarantee.com.
You got one to record.
Yeah, I got those numbers in, so I figure I might record that number. I don't even know what the hell
Yeah,
they
sure.
are.
Go ahead. I've got stuff to keep you busy.
All right.
They're not back. They did back. Yeah, they left right after. Yeah, Josh was consistent. Yeah, that's the first thing they said that to me a minute ago before they left. I'm like, yeah, it went into effect the last time we all wound up at one. You were just gone because you normally are. It had nothing to do with you, but you know, I don't know why that's really. Yeah, yeah.